mobilizing and stabilizing at the same time, mainly throughout the spine. So quite a lot of spine work tonight, but you'll see as we go along, I'll talk you all through it. So if we can start from standing, as we always do, we're just going to find that balance, find that central grounding feeling that we find most week or every week. So what we need to do is just stand feet hip width apart, feet parallel. I just want you to transfer the weight over to the right hand foot and then over to the left hand side as well. And now I want you to think about bringing it to center so the weight's nice and evenly distributed throughout both feet. So you feel nice and grounded, nice and centered. We're going to keep the knees nice and soft. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see. And now I want you to just lean forwards, just over the balls of the feet. So we're transferring the weight over the front of the foot. And then we're going to bring it back to center. As your weight travels forward, you'll feel that core, the core start to engage to stop you from toppling over. I want us to maintain that core engagement that we get when we travel forwards over the balls of the feet. So we're going to maintain that core engagement as we bring it back to center. So we want to keep that core at that engagement. We're going to really soften through the knees now and find our neutral pelvis. So popping the hands on the hips, imagining the hips are like a bucket of water, the pelvis is a bucket of water. We're just going to tip the bucket of water forwards. The water would travel out the front of the bucket. And then we're going to tip the bucket backwards. So feeling a little stretch there into the lower back. We're just tipping forwards and backwards, mobilizing through the pelvis and that lower spine. So in between those two movements is a neutral pelvis. So I want you to think about bringing the bucket so the water would remain in the bucket. So the pelvis is hip bones are level and the the tailbone rather, sorry, can't find my words tonight, is slightly tucked between the legs. So now we're going to focus on drawing up through that pelvic floor. So it might feel like we've got a nice tight corset on, everything is nicely engaged, those deep core muscles all working together. So now we're going to bring the arms up into a full body stretch. So just bringing the arms up towards the ceiling, keeping that pelvis in neutral, keeping the water within that bucket, and then exhale breath as we bring the arms down to the side. So mobilizing through the shoulder, inhale breath, keeping that core engaged, reaching nice and tall to the ceiling. Exhale breath, bringing the arms back down to the side. Let's just do one more of those. So nice inhale breath, really filling the lungs on that inhale breath through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth as the arms come back down to the side. Lovely. Now we're going to bring the arms out to about 45 degrees and work some rotation into the spine. So keeping the hips as facing the front, we're just going to rotate through the spine, just to let gravity take the arms as we rotate with the spine. Some nice cricks and clicks out the back. And then we're just going to slow that down. And as we slow that down, just allow the arms to come back to center, back to facing me. Nice, lovely. Now we're going to mobilize through the top part of the spine while stabilizing the pelvis in our neutral position. So again, slight little tuck of the tailbone between the legs, bucket of water, water's remaining nice and still within that pelvis, within that bucket. We're going to bring the hands to either side of the head, it's like a double salute. And then we're going to take an inhale breath. We're going to take the gaze up towards the ceiling without the pelvis moving. So keep that core engagement. And then exhale breath as we slide that bottom rib down towards the hips. So inhale breath, taking that gaze up towards the ceiling, elbows stay out to the side so we can't see the elbows. And then exhale, think about sliding the ribs back down towards the hips. That's it. Let's go for 3 more. Inhale as we lift up, open up the chest there. And exhale as we come back to center. Last 2, inhale breath, bring the gaze up towards the ceiling. Keep those elbows out to the side. Exhale breath, bring it back to center again. Last 1, inhale breath. Take the gaze up. Let's hold it here for 3. Don't hold the breath, keep breathing. 2, And one, sliding those bottom ribs back down towards the hips, closing that distance. We're going to bring the arms down to the side now, taking it into our first roll down. So weight nice and evenly distributed throughout the feet. Take an inhale breath through the nose. As we exhale, start to bring the chin towards the chest. I want you to think about peeling the spine vertebrae by vertebrae away from an imaginary brick wall behind you. So one vertebrae at a time as we slowly start to roll the spine down. Keeping that core slightly engaged, making sure the arms are relaxed, making sure the shoulders are relaxed, making sure the neck's relaxed. We're going to stop at the bottom. Knees stay nice and soft, don't lock the knees. Really important to switch off those neck muscles, so let the head just dangle. In fact, just to help switch off the neck, just do a little head nod, yes, and then a little shake of the head no. Just let everything feel nice and heavy. Take a nice deep inhale breath down here. As we exhale, I want you to think about bringing the pelvis back into neutral. Just start to tuck the tailbone back between the legs and just allow the spine to follow. Just letting the arms dangle, letting the head dangle, rolling the spine back up. Nice and slowly. When we reach the top, nice big shoulder roll, shoulders come down, the back of the back, shoulders down, arms down by the side. We're going to go back down for another one. So take a nice deep inhale breath. As we exhale, start to bring the chin towards the chest. Start to peel away from that imaginary brick wall behind. Keeping the pelvis in neutral for as long as possible. And just allowing the arms to dangle, allowing the head to dangle. Neck nice and relaxed. Rolling all the way down. Let's take a couple of deep breaths down here. In through the nose, out through the mouth. With a nice exaggerated exhale breath. And then on the next exhale breath, we're going to restack, rebuild. So again, start to scoop that tailbone under, drawing the tummy button up towards the spine as we start to roll back up and roll back out. Reaching the top, nice big shoulder roll, reset the shoulders for our last roll down. Take an inhale breath. As we exhale, again, same thing, peeling away from that brick wall behind us. One vertebrae at a time. Arms are just dangling, shoulders are relaxed, neck's relaxed. We're going to stay down on this one. So just take some nice deep breaths in through the nose, that circular breath, out through the mouth. Now I want you to put quite a bend into the knee. So really soften through the knees. We're going to bring the hands to the top of the bottom of the thighs, just above the kneecap. And then I want you to bring the chest through. So really lengthen out through the spine. And we're going to work some cat-cow stretches in this position. So bring the weight back into the heel, almost into a squat. And now I want you to tuck that tailbone under, coming up into a little cat stretch. So pushing up into the spine. And then I want you to arch the spine down, bring the chest through, lengthen through the spine as we extend, take that gaze forward, and then back into our cat stretch again, scooping that tailbone under, pushing up into the back, and then extending, arching the spine down, take the gaze forwards, and that's the last one, cat stretch, so scooping that tailbone under, really finding some distance and length in between those vertebrae, and then arching down. Gentle squeeze of the shoulder blades there. And now we're going to return back to neutral. So nice and long through the spine now. We're going to bring the hands into a prayer position, sitting a little bit further back with the bottom. We're going to just work with the legs for a little bit now. So nice and wide through the collarbone, nice and tall through the spine. We're just going to go down an inch, weight over the heels, up an inch. So we're going to go down an inch, sit that bottom back, and up an inch. So you'll feel the quads working, keeping that spine tall. So we're stabilizing through the spine as we're working the quads here. And let's just do one more. We're going to sit back down, weight over the heels. Now we're going to stay down. We're going to then bring the heels up from the floor. So keep the angle between the knee, behind the knee, and the hips. The only thing that's working now is the ankle. We're mobilizing through the ankle. We're going to go for 3 more. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. Make sure we're not slouching forward. Whoa. And last one, coming up off the heels. Bring the heels back down. Take an inhale breath as we exhale. Drive through the heel as we come up and out of that squat. Well done. That should have definitely warmed the legs up. We're going to come towards the back of the mat to make our way down to the floor. I'll bring my computer a bit closer in a second. So we're going to take it into a tabletop pose now. So feet hip width apart. We're going to take it up into a full body stretch, reaching for the ceiling. Pelvis is in neutral, so that slight tuck of the tailbone between the legs. Take an inhale breath here. As we exhale, weight travels back over the heels as we lengthen through the spine, coming down into our tabletop position. So reaching those arms forward. Feel that lovely stretch into the back of the legs. Just going to take a couple of breaths here. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Last one. Inhale breath and exhale breath. We're going to come down, soften through the knees. We want to bring the hands all the way down to the floor now. So bringing the palms of the hands down to the floor, popping a bend into the knee if we're not quite there. I'm just going to move my computer and we're going to walk halfway out down the mat. So coming down, and then we're going to bring the knees down onto the floor as well. So we're going to work our cat-cow stretch in this position now. So just untuck the toes. We've got our neutral spine at the moment, that place in the middle of the 2 extremes. We're going to take an inhale breath here. As we exhale, we're going to really start to tuck that tailbone between the legs so that the pelvis lead, scooping the tummy button up towards the spine and eventually bringing the chin towards the chest. Push the floor away with the palms of the hands. Really separate the shoulder blades. And then we're going to untuck. So leading with the pelvis again, untucking that tailbone and let it just ripple down the spine. Take the gaze towards the end of the mat as we gently squeeze the shoulder blades together, finding that lovely arch. And then we're going to take it back into our cat stretch. So scooping the tailbone under. Feel that stretch into the back of the neck, back of the spine, lower back rather. Bringing the chin towards the chest, pushing the floor away. And then again, untuck. We're untucking and rippling down up the spine. Gentle squeeze of the shoulder blades. Take that gaze towards the end of the mat. Let's go for one more. So again, tuck the tailbone under, pelvis leads, get that stretch into the lower back, and then bring the chin towards the chest as we separate the shoulder blades, pushing the floor away with the hands. Back down for our last cow stretch. So untuck, allow the spine to arch down, gentle squeeze. And then in the middle of those 2 movements, we have our neutral. So we're thinking about length from the crown of the head down to the tailbone. So a slight tuck of the tailbone between the legs. We're going to turn the toes underneath now. And we're going to come up into a little knee hover if we can. So take an inhale breath as we exhale. We're going to lift the knees up an inch off the mat and then inhale breath as we bring the knees back down. So it's not a massive movement. Think about balancing a tray of drinks on the back. Exhale, breath, lift. Inhale, breath, lower. If that's too much, just concentrate on that core engagement by drawing the tummy button up towards the spine and then inhale, release. So level 2s, we're coming up off the knees, couple of inches or an inch and lowering back down, making sure those shoulders are nice and strong. Push the floor away with the palms of the hands and lower it back down. Let's go for 3 more. exhale, up. Inhale, down. Last two. Exhale, breath, lift. Inhale, breath, lower. Last one. Exhale, breath, lift. Let's see if we can hold for 3. Nice deep breaths. 2. And 1. Gently bring the knees back down to the floor. Well done. We're going to have a little rest pose now. So sitting back into the heels. Walk the hands forwards. Feel that lovely stretch into the back, into the arms. Bring the forehead down towards the floor. And then from here, we're just going to walk the hands over to one side, keeping the tailbone nice and close to the heels. Pop one hand on top of the other. Feel that lovely stretch down the side of the body. And then just slowly walk the hands back through the center, up and over to the other side. Again, place one hand on top of the other. Think about creating some length between that bottom rib and the hip. And then bringing it back to center again. Just walk the hands towards you. We're going to come into seated now and work some half roll downs, again mobilizing through the spine. So a lot of spine work tonight. So bringing the feet to hip width apart. We're going to sit nice and tall on the sit bones. The crown of the head is pulling up towards the ceiling. We're going to bring the hands behind the back of the thighs, just above the knee. So nice and tall here. Then we're going to roll to the back of the sit bones. Think about getting the waistband of the trousers as close to the floor as we can, keeping a hold of the back of the legs there. So really scooping out those lower abdominals. So we're into our cat stretch there. Take an inhale breath here. As we exhale, you can have the arms to help, hands to assist. We're rolling back onto the top of those sit bones. And then we're going to work all the way into extension. So take the gaze towards the ceiling, extending through the spine. Inhale breath here. As we exhale, we're going back into our cat again. So rolling onto the back of the pelvis, lengthen out through the arms, going down as far as the arms will allow us. Think about getting that waistband of the trousers as close to the floor as we can. Inhale breath here. Exhale breath as we roll back up. So we're really mobilizing through that lower back and extending at the top. Really bring the chest through. Inhale breath. Let's do one more. Exhale breath. Rolling onto the back of the sit bones. Really feeling that stretch into the lower spine there. Exhale breath. Coming all the way back up. And we can carry on with this level. If you want to make it a bit more challenging, we're going to bring the arms out in front. So we're losing the hands from behind the thighs. So take an inhale breath as we exhale again. We might be able to roll down a little bit further now because we haven't got the arm restriction. So rolling down, possibly to the bottom of the shoulder blades if we can. And then as we exhale, we're rolling back up, peeling one vertebrae at a time. This time as we come to the top, bring the arms up as we extend through the spine. Everyone's going to feel 2 inches taller after this class, all this spine work, so rolling it down. No restriction as to how far we roll here, making it a little bit more tricky. Of course, if you want to keep the hands behind the thighs, do. And on this next one, we're going to go all the way down. So bringing the arms level with the shoulders, rolling onto the back of the pelvis, waistband of the trousers, down into the floor, engaging through those deep core muscles to control, 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 all the way down to the floor. One vertebrae at a time. Bring the arms behind the head, lengthen out through the legs into a nice full body stretch. And then just lift the spine away from the floor, lengthen those abdominals back out. Take some deep breaths, really breathing into the bottom, to the side of the lungs, stretching out across the rib cage with that nice deep inhale. And then we're going to bring the arms down to the side, and we're going to bring the feet up onto the mat. So we're going to bring the feet quite close to the bottom. I'm going to move you a little bit closer so we can see. So we're down on our backs, feet fairly close to the bottom, and I want us to find our neutral pelvis in this position. So if you imagine you've got a shallow bowl of water within that triangle that the hip bones and the pubic bone make, to find neutral in this position, you want to imagine the water remaining nice and still and quiet within that shallow dish. So hands and arms down by the side. We're going to take it into our first shoulder bridge now. So at the moment we've got a neutral pelvis, water's remaining nice and still. I want you to sink the lower back down into the floor as the pubic bone comes higher than the hip bones. And then again, one vertebrae at a time, we're peeling ourselves up into our first bridge. So keeping that slight tuck of the tailbone between the legs, squeezing those hips up towards the ceiling. We want a nice straight slope from the knee down to the shoulder. So the glutes are working nice and hard. Inhale, breath here. As we exhale, we're going articulating through the spine, nice and slowly, one vertebrae at a time as the spine comes down. When that bottom touches the floor, we go back to our neutral. So the hip bones, pubic bone are on the same level. Let's go again. Inhale, breath. Exhale, we sink that lower back down into the floor, imprint, and then start to peel the spine up away from the floor, keeping that tailbone slightly tucked under, squeezing those hips up towards the ceiling. I also want you to think about gripping a tennis ball in between the knees here. So we're moving the knees in towards the midline of the body. Take an inhale breath here as we exhale again, articulating through the spine, keeping the grip on that tennis ball in between the knees. So stabilizing the knees, controlling it all back down. Let's go again. Inhale breath, exhale, imprint. Grip that tennis ball between the knees as we start to lift the spine away from the floor. Squeeze those hips up towards the ceiling. Lovely straight slope from the knee down to the shoulder. Right, now we're going to transfer the weight into the front of the foot as we bring the heels up away from the floor. So lifting and lowering. Lifting and lowering. So the glutes are working nice and hard to keep us up in that bridge. And we're mobilizing through the ankle as we start to lift and lower the heels. So don't allow the hips to drop, everything else remains nice and still. That looks perfect. Lovely, Abby. Lift and lower. On this next one, we're going to stay lifted with the heels if we can. And then rather than articulating through the spine, we're going to hinge. So we're going to drop the spine down in one movement and then exhale, push back up towards the ceiling, keeping those heels raised. So it's a lower and a lift. It's a pulse. We're going to go for 5. Keep those heels up. 4. Inhale, drop, exhale, squeeze. Really squeezing those glutes. Keeping that tailbone tucked under 2. And last one, keeping a grip on that tennis ball. 1. Squeeze those hips nice and high. Lower the heels down. We're going to float the arms overhead. And now we're going to articulate through the spine on the way down. So take a deep inhale breath here. As we exhale, I want you to think about lengthening the spine down along the floor. So releasing all the way down, one vertebrae at a time, until that bottom touches the floor. Well done. We're just going to grab hold of one knee, grab hold of the other knee, bring the knees up towards the shoulders, just lengthen those glutes back out, have a little rock or a roll around on that lower back. Right, so thinking about that pelvis placement, we're going to bring the feet back down again and finding that neutral pelvis. So the hip bones and the pubic bone a level. We've got a slight arch underneath that lower back, a little shallow curve into that lower back. We're going to engage through the core to fix the pelvis into place. So we're not moving the spine or the pelvis. We're going to bring the hands behind the head, remembering that shallow bowl of water within that triangle. We're going to take an inhale breath here as we exhale. We're going to lift the shoulders and the chest away from the floor. So flexing the upper spine. We're going to take an inhale breath here and then exhale as we bring the upper spine back down again. So deep breath in. As we exhale, we're going to come up, scooping out those lower abdominals, and then slowly lowering it back down, just warming up through the abs. Exhale, breath lift. Exhale it back down to the floor. We're going to add a breath in to this exercise now. So we're going to exhale as we come up. We're going to reach the arms behind the thighs, lift a little bit higher, keeping the pelvis in neutral. Stay lifted, bring the hands behind the head and lower it back down to the floor. So we just added an extra breath into that exercise. So exhale, lift. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bring the hands behind the head without losing that height, and then slowly lowering it back down, controlling it back down. The abdominals are still working on the way down as much as they were on the way up. So hands behind, we lift a little bit higher, we stay nice and high, hands come behind the head and lower it all back down to the floor. Let's go for 3 more. Lift, reach, come up a little bit higher, stay nice and lifted, bring those hands behind the head without losing height, perfect, lovely said, and lower it back down to the floor. Last one, exhaling up. We're going to reach behind the legs, come up a little bit higher, bring the hands back behind the head, stay lifted, and lower it back down to the floor. Well done. That should have warmed up the abdominals a little bit now. So we're going to work some rotation into the top part of the spine. So bearing that pelvic placement, we're going to come up, pelvis stays in neutral. I want you to turn, so rotating, looking over behind the side of the right knee, and then inhale it back. Pelvis stays nice and quiet, nice and still. Exhale it through to the other side, rotate. Inhale, bring it back to center. Exhale, rotate. Keep those knees nice and still. Imagine we're still gripping that tennis ball between the knees. We don't want the knees to be swaying around. Inhale it back to center. Exhale as we rotate. Inhale it back. Exhale it through. Inhale it back. Exhale it through. Last one more to each side. Rotate. Inhale it back to center. Last one. Exhale, rotate. Inhale it back to center. And then bring the head and the shoulders down. Well done. Next exercise, we're going to stay at a low level. So we're going to take an inhale breath and then exhale, bringing the hands behind the head just to support the weight of the head so we're not feeling it in the neck. So we're going to lift those shoulder blades up from the floor. Now, bearing in mind our neutral pelvis, we're then going to pelvic tilt with our head and shoulders still off the mat. So we're going to sink that lower back down into the floor, lift that pubic bone higher than the hip bones, and then back. So it's just a pelvic tilt, and then back to neutral. Pelvic tilt, back to neutral. That's it, lovely, Abby. Sink that lower back down into the floor. So we're just rocking the pelvis like we did when we were stood up, but laid down with that upper spine inflection. Let's go for 3, 2. So stabilize with the top part of our spine as we mobilize the bottom part of the spine. We're going to go back to neutral. We're going to bring the head and shoulders down. Just give ourselves a little rest. In fact, let's take it out into a full body stretch, nice release stretch. Have a little circle of wrists and ankles while we're down here. So we're going to go through that again, but this time making it a little bit harder, building ourselves up. If you want to go back down with the feet back on the floor, absolutely do. So we're going to start this time by bringing the first leg up into tabletop position. And then we're going to bring the second leg up to tabletop position without any movement from the pelvis, any movement from the spine. Bringing the arms above the shoulders, palms facing, anchoring those shoulders down into the floor. We're going to lengthen away one leg without any lift from the spine, and then bring it back to tabletop position. Lengthening away other leg, keeping those shoulders anchored down into the floor. So no movement from the top part of the body, no lift from the spine. If you're feeling this in the lower back, always revert to imprinting the spine down into the floor. That looks perfect. So really using those deep core muscles to keep stabilized through the spine and through the pelvis. Let's go for one more to each side. And last one. Reach, bring it back to tabletop position. Well done. Bringing the arms down to the side now, bringing the knees and the ankles together. Okay, again, bearing in mind the spine and the pelvis. We're going to inhale as we start to lower the feet down towards the floor, only to the point where we don't move the spine, and then exhale as we bring the knees back into tabletop position. So it's an inhale breath as we lower, keeping that 90-degree bend in the knee, and exhale as we come back to center. So we're really controlling everything with the deep core muscles. We're not losing that position of the spinal pelvis. So you need to be quite strict with yourself. Don't worry if those feet aren't getting down to the floor. Mine certainly aren't. So let's go for 4 more. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Last one. Inhaling down. Lower, lower, lower. Exhale, bring those knees back up. This time we can bring the knees in towards the chest. Try to relax the abdominals as we have a little roll around on that lower back. Well done. So we should be feeling nice and warm through the abs now. We're going to come up into seated. We're going to do some rolling exercise now. So if we can roll ourselves up. Let's move the computer a little bit further away so you can see me. Oh, sorry. There we go. So we're going to work rolling like a ball now. So another stabilizing exercise. Even though we're moving, we're keeping the body in one position. So bringing the feet in towards the bottom, bring the tiptoes onto the floor. We've rolled back onto the back of the sit bones. We're going to lift the feet away from the floor. And we're going to try and stay in this position as we roll back. We only roll back to the shoulders, don't roll back onto the neck. So squeezing the heels in towards the bottom. We're going to inhale as we roll the spine down, and then exhale as we roll back up. So it's an inhale breath as we roll. Try to stay curled up like a ball, keeping those abdominals short. Lovely, Jill. Perfect. Rolling back. Lovely. Try to balance at the top. If you need to just pop the toes down just for a bit of control, absolutely fine. Let's go for 3 more rolls. 2. Inhaling as we go back. Don't go back as far as the neck, only to the shoulders. And 1 last one, just because it feels nice. Curling back up to seated. Lovely, well done. We're going to roll it back down to the floor for 1 more abdominal exercise. So bring the feet a little bit further away from the bottom, feet hip width apart, nice and tall on those sit bones like when we started. Inhale, breath. As we exhale, pelvic tilt. Think about placing the back of the pelvis down first, really engaging through those lower abdominals as we control the spine all the way down to the floor. Lovely, well done. Nice and controlled. At the bottom, let's take it out into a stretch. Lift the spine away from the floor, pushing up into the back. Work that extension. And then the next exercise we are going to do is part of the rollover, which I know some of you aren't keen on, but some of you really like. So bringing the feet back up onto the mat. We're going to bring the legs back up into tabletop position without that spine lifting. And then we're just going to gently cross the feet one over the other, softening the knees so we're not quite in a 90-degree angle. So with what we did before, bearing that in mind, we're going to lower down without compromising the position of the spine. And as we exhale this time, we're going to bring the knees towards the chest and lift the pelvis up into a reverse tilt and then lower it back down. This is our level 1. So we dip, keeping the spine controlled, and then lift, knees towards the chest, lifting the hips away from the floor, pushing into the arms if we need to. So keeping those abdominals nice and short. So that's our level 1 exercise, with a slight little lift of the hips. Don't worry if they're not coming up very high. Level 2, we're going to uncross the legs. We're going to go for that double toe tap. And then as we come up, bring the knees towards the chest, peeling up, 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 up. Bring those legs over the head. So the legs are parallel with the floor. And then we're going to slowly control the spine back down. But do work at your own level. If you struggle with that one, just take it to that level 1 exercise where we just lift the hips slightly away from the floor. So it's this double toe tap. Don't compromise the position of the spine. Bring those knees up. And if we can, bring those legs over. Try not to use momentum. Try to use all core. And then control the spine back down. So a nice stretchy one on the back, that one. Let's go for a couple more. Inhale as we lower. Exhale. When those knees, when those thighs are vertical, we can start to lengthen out through the legs. Straighten out through the legs as those legs come over. Lovely, Jill. And control, control, control. Let's see how you're all getting on. That's it. Perfect. Lovely, Abby. So it is one of those work in progress exercises, not for everybody with the legs over the head, which is absolutely fine. And control it back down. And let's make this one the last one. Exhale, lift. Peel that spine away, or just lift the hips away from the floor. And lower, 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 with control. Lovely. Bring the legs back into tabletop. Place the feet down on the floor. At a time. We're going to bring it up into seated now. So we're going to roll up. If you prefer to keep a bend in the knee, keep a bend in the knee. If you're fine with legs out straight, take the legs out straight. So we're going to bring the arms up above the shoulders, palms facing. Inhale, breath here. As we exhale, start to bring the chin towards the chest, lengthen through the back of the neck as we start to peel the spine away from the floor, lifting up. Nice and tall in the center, reach for the ceiling. If you need to use the elbow there for assistance, that's fine. And then we're going to forward fold. So have a little flex of the ankles. We're going to lead with the chest and reach forward, feeling that stretch into the back of the legs. And release. Well done. Now, enough of core for now. Let's go on to glutes. So we're going to come into a sideline position for this one. If we can, ideally, we want to be having the elbow underneath the shoulder and creating a nice strong triangle between the body and the mat. So we don't want to be bending We want a nice strong triangle pushing the floor away with that elbow. So we're going to keep this bottom leg bent. We're going to extend the top leg for some glute work. So extend that top leg, keeping those hips still, flexing through that top ankle. We're going to start with some simple leg raises. So squeezing up and then inhaling down. So it's an exhale as we lift. Don't compromise the torso though. So the torso needs to stay long. Shoulder needs, supporting shoulder needs to be well away from the ear. So it's a lift and a lower. Flexing through that top ankle, squeezing up and lowering down. We're going to take it up and we're going to stay up on this one. Keeping that flex, keeping that supporting shoulder strong. We're going to start to circle. So we're stabilized through the torso, isolating the glute. So we're doing small controlled circles. You should start to feel that in the side of the bottom. Small controlled circles. That looks good, Julie. Let's go for 3, 2, and 1. We're going to take the circles back in the opposite direction. That glute should feel like it's on fire. Try not to sink into the shoulder. Keep tall through the spine. That looks perfect, everyone. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Let's go for 3, 2, and 1. We're going to hold. We're going to see if we can bring the toe down towards the floor, lifting the heel a little bit higher. So internally rotating that top leg and holding for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release down towards the floor. Well done. We're then going to stay on the elbow, lengthening this top leg. So the foot's now on the floor, giving that glute a little bit of a rest. We're going to bring the arm level with the shoulder and work some rotation now. So take an inhale breath, we'll be nice and tall. As we exhale, we're going to rotate and tap the front top corner of the mat and then bring it back to center, keeping everything else nice and still. So the rotation's coming from the spine. Exhale breath, we rotate. Supporting shoulder, still working nice and hard. Inhale breath, we come back to center. That's perfect. Exhale, rotate, reach forward, pelvis stays still and quiet. Let's go for 3, 2, and last one. Going to rotate and then bring it back to center. Well done. We're then going to bring this forearm up, pushing up onto the wrist, onto the hand, and then we're going to come up into a modified side plank, but this is going to be a nice stretchy one. So we're going to lift up, keeping that underneath down the floor into our modified side plank, and then take it over into a side bend. Bring the arm over the head, lengthen through the side of the body, and then bring it back into plank. Let's go for 1 more. So lifting those hips up, lengthening the top side of the body. Lovely, Abby, and bring it back to our side plank. Well done. We're then going to bring that hand forward, coming into a 3-point kneeling position. So the leg nearest me needs to be extended away. The knee needs to be directly underneath the hip. Wrists are directly underneath the shoulders. So again, nice neutral spine. That's the most important thing here, is we're keeping that spine level. We're going to keep the hips level as we lift, squeezing from the glute as we lift the leg level with the body. And then inhale as we lower back down. So it's an exhale, squeeze. Inhale, lower. Perfect, let's keep that going. Making sure the hip doesn't sway out to the side. Make sure that supporting knee is directly underneath that hip. Keep the neck in line with the spine. So that for myself, always dip my head and lift. Really isolating the glute. We're going to stay lifted on this next one. We're going to bend through that knee, 90 degrees, flexing through the ankle, keeping the spine in neutral. We're going to squeeze the heel up towards the ceiling. So it's not a massive lift. We don't want to compromise the spine. We want to keep that spine long. Let's go for 5 more ceiling pushes. 4, 3, 2, and last one. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bring it back level with the body. Bring the leg out long, extend, and then bring that foot down to the floor. We're going to walk out into our plank. So we're going to bring the other foot out and we're going to hold our plank. If that plank's too much, come down to the knees into 3/4 plank. So we're stabilizing through the whole body here, either from the feet or from the knees. For 3. Nice deep breaths. 2. Make sure we're pushing the floor away. Keep those shoulders strong. And 1. If you're not already on the knees, bring the knees down one at a time. And again, have a sit back into the heels, taking it into our child's pose. Well done, everyone. Now, unfortunately, we have to work the other side of the body. I can't send you out wonky. So just walking the hands back towards the body. We're going to turn around. So the feet are in the opposite direction on the mat. So we're going to start with the elbow underneath the shoulder. If anyone's got really bad shoulder issues here, we can come all the way down onto the floor, still working the glutes. If we can, keep that elbow underneath. Again, nice strong triangle so we're not sinking. We're pushing that floor away, lifting up out of that shoulder. So we're going to start with the leg raises. So lengthening through the top leg, flexing through that ankle as we bring the leg up without compromising the spine. So lifting and lowering. Perfect. Squeeze. So we should be feeling it in the outside of the bottom. You know, your legs come up too high if we start to sink into that shoulder. Let's go for 1 more raise. I like to put my hand on my hip here as well, just to make sure my hip's not moving around. And then we're going for our circles, controlled circles. That's lovely. Nice, Julie. Perfect, Pam. Let's go for 3. Ouch. 2. And 1. Everyone's got to smile whilst doing this. Lovely. Let's go for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well done. See if we can bring the toe further towards the floor as the ankle reaches up towards the ceiling. For 3, 2, 1, and then rest that leg down. Well done. That wasn't nice, sorry. We're going to bring the arm up, level with the shoulder, work that rotation now. So keeping that nice strong supporting shoulder, we're going to rotate and reach that arm forward. So rotating through the spine as the lower part of the body, the hips remain stable. So exhale as we rotate and reach. Inhale as we bring it back to center. Perfect. Bring it forward and reach. Last 2. And last one. Reach, rotate, tap, and back to center. Well done. This underneath forearm, we're going to bring round, pushing up onto the hand and take it into our modified side plank. So keeping that bottom knee underneath knee bent, we're going to come up, lift those hips up into our plank, and then bend over, lengthening through the side of the body, and then bringing it back to plank. We can bring it all the way down with the hips if you like. Let's go for one more of those. So supporting shoulder nice and strong, lifting those hips up, reaching that arm over, feel the length into the side of the body, and then bring it back into our plank. Well done. We're going to come back onto all fours to work the other glute. So lifting up, so the leg closest to me is the leg that we'll be working. So fully extend that leg. If we had a spirit level across that lower back, that bubble would remain in the middle, so the hips are level. We're pushing the floor away with the hands, the shoulders nice and strong, and then we're going to leg raise. Squeezing up, so the only thing moving is the leg. Toe tap, straight back up again, squeezing from that glute. Everyone knows I like a bit of glute work. And lower. Let's take it up. Leg's going to stay up on this one. Level with the body. We bend through the knee. We flex through the ankle. Balancing a coffee cup on the sole of the foot. We're going to push that coffee cup up without arching through the spine. Squeeze. Really isolating the glute. Squeeze. That supporting knee should be directly underneath the hip. So the hips haven't swayed out to the side. Squeeze. Squeeze. Last 3. 2. And 1. Squeezing up. Bring that knee level with the hip. We're going to extend that leg. Flex through the foot. We're going to pop that foot down to the floor, taking it back out into our plank. So walking the other foot out. Core switched on. If it's too much, come down onto the knees. We're going to hold this plank for 6 breaths. So nice deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. 4, 3, 2, nearly there. And 1, if the knees aren't already down, gently bring the knees down onto the floor. And again, let's have a sit back into the heels, lengthen through those arms, bring that tailbone down towards the heel. Gosh, it's 5 to 8. Where did that time go? Just to finish off, we're coming all the way down onto our fronts. We're going to bring the hands to underneath the forehead, one on top of the other, forehead resting on the hands. I want you to think about lengthening the pubic bone down into the floor whilst drawing the tummy button up towards the spine. So we're going to keep the lower back stable as we mobilize through the top part of the spine. So take an inhale breath as we come up. We're hovering the head and the shoulders, elbows above the mat. Think length over lift, and then exhaling as we come back down. So take an inhale breath as we come up, keeping that pubic bone pressed down. Exhale breath as we come down. We're going to come up and we're going to hold on this next one. So inhale breath as we lift and lengthen. We're going to hold it here for 3, for 2, and for 1, and lower it back down. That's our level 1 exercise. Level 2, when we come up, same thing again. We're going to lengthen the arms out in front, palms facing, reaching those arms away, just increasing the lever length and hold for 3, for 2, and for 1. Bring the hands back underneath the forehead and then lower it back down to the floor. So this is a great posture exercise. Let's take it up again. Level 1, we stay here, hands stay underneath the forehead. Level 2, fancy challenge, bring the arms out, this time into a Y shape, into a V, for 3, for 2, For 1, bring those hands back and bring it back down to the floor. Let's go again. Inhale, breath. Exhale, we're hovering. Keep that gaze down towards the mat. We're working the top part of the spine. Level 1s, we stay here. Level 2s, this time we're bringing the arms out level with the shoulders, making a T shape with the body. And holding for 3, for 2, and for 1. Bring those hands back underneath the forehead and lower it back down onto the floor. The last one. Inhale, breath. Exhale, coming up into our hover. Level 1, stay here. Level 2, fancying the challenge, bring those arms out in front, palms facing, and hold for 3, for 2, and for 1. Bring the hands back underneath the forehead. I know it's not nice. And then lowering it back down onto the floor with control. Well done. Just bring the hands underneath the shoulders now. We're going to push up onto all fours and take it into a really nice cat stretch. So just bring the knees into underneath the hips, wrists underneath the shoulders. Take an inhale breath. As we exhale, we're going to push up into that spine. Bring the chin towards the chest. Really part the shoulder blades there. Just holding it for a little bit longer. Nice release stretch. And release back down. Another nice shoulder stretch for you because you worked hard. We're going to stay in our 4-point kneeling position. I'm just going to face the front. We're going to bring the right arm out level with the right shoulder, palm facing down towards the floor. And then we're going to bring the hand down. We're going to feed the hand behind that left wrist, softening through that left elbow as we bring the tip of the shoulder down to the floor, bringing the head all the way down as well so we're not straining the neck. And just hold it there. So we've got some nice rotation going on in the spine, lovely stretch into the shoulder. And then bringing that hand back underneath the shoulder, sliding all the way back under, same on the other side. So reach that left arm out level with the shoulder first, and then start to feed the hand behind that right wrist as we start to lower the tip of the shoulder down to the floor, relaxing the head down as well. And then pushing back up onto all fours. We're coming all the way down onto the floor now for a nice cobra stretch. But this time just bring the feet out wider than the mat, relaxing through the glutes for this one, bringing the hands to underneath the shoulder or just in front of the shoulder, keeping the elbows in. Take an inhale breath. As we exhale, we're going to push the floor away, keeping the shoulders down, relaxing the bottom. Coming up to feel that nice stretch down the front of the body. Just allow the neck to follow the line of the spine. Don't throw the head back. And then we're going to lower it down to the point where we're going to engage through the core. We're going to push back up onto the knees. Just watch that lower back as we come up. And we're going to sit back between the heels this time. So nice wide leg child's pose. Reaching those arms away. Nice deep breaths again. See if you can feel the stretch into the back of the rib cage. Really lowering that upper body down into the floor. And then bringing the hands back towards the body. Coming back onto all fours again. Bring the knees to underneath the hips. Sorry, I have overrun slightly. We're going to take an inhale breath here as we exhale. Let's take it into our final cat stretch, pushing up into the spine. Really part those shoulder blades. Lovely. And then we're going to roll it down, untuck that tailbone. Gentle squeeze of the shoulder blades, the spine sinks down. Just take the gaze towards the end of the mat. And then we're going to come back to our neutral. So somewhere in between those two movements, turning the toes underneath. We're coming up into that knee hover like we did at the beginning of class, so just hovering the knees. And then start to bring the weight back into the heel, pushing the head through the arms, in between the arms. We can have a little pedal here if you like, with the heels, just easing them down into the floor. And then pushing both heels down into the mat, so as close to the mat as we can. We're going to start to walk the hands back towards the feet. Weights fully back over the feet again, nice and evenly distributed. Relax through the neck, relax through the arms. Relax the jaw, forehead. Keep those knees nice and soft. Some nice deep breaths down here. And then nice deep inhale breath on that exhale breath is when we start to slowly tuck that tailbone between the legs and just let it ripple up the spine as we start to roll back up. Just let those arms dangle as we rebuild, restack the spine, coming up ever so slowly. Well done. And when you reach the top, do some really huge shoulder rolling. And just make sure you finish by sliding